So this is episode 2 of the Ramjet Anvil show with Martijn and Frank. I'm Frank.
We asked for feedback last time, and by and large, everything was about parachutes, because we've been showing some work on parachutes before, and to a lot of people it just looked like, okay, this is not finished, but it looks playable, I want to play it. So then we were like, after the first show, okay, sod it, we'll just do parachutes for 2 weeks and then make an experimental release. And that's where we are now.
Yeah.
So where can you get it? Because it's out. Where can you get it?
It's out. You can get it on itch.io. The link will be in the description. And
let me just start flying here in the meantime while you tell people where to get this goodness.
So getting it on itch means it's free for now. This version is completely free, but please consider tipping, giving us some money if you really like it. So what you're looking at now is the parachute prototype made playable by us in the last 2 weeks.
So what's in it? What does it do? Because we have like all this going on. What is this?
It is a game where you can create your own parachute and you can fly with your own parachute. And it's really fun. Yeah.
So, okay, let's say make this a little bit less thick. Let's say I increase the cells. Let's say I make it huge.
Okay. Yeah.
Like obviously that won't do. Well, actually, let's see what this one does. I think he created one like this. I have no idea whether this will do anything, but like this is a parachute you can create. Look at it go.
This is a great parachute. This is my favorite one. No.
Well, let's just. I'm gonna keep experimenting with several different things here.
Yeah, so you can obviously increase the size of the parachute so it can catch more wind, and it will obviously make flying the thing or not crashing easier. The less air the parachute can catch, the harder it will be to land, but also the more fun it will be to get it under control.
Oh yeah, the idea is because you can create such a wide range of configurations already with this, like you can create anywhere from a small speed wing to a large parafoil that you can start soaring with. And so the same simple system should allow you to create vastly different types of parachute-related flight or canopy-related flight, and just really mix and match and experience. Look at this go. I'm really happy with this. So, what do we mean when we say experimental, right? Obviously, this is not the full Volo game. It's the same terrain. It's a lot of the physics and camera and gameplay systems shared, but this is not fully integrated with the rest of the game, and that's because that would be really hard to do.
It would take just more time.
So we had this lying around. We had this code lying around, and we showed some videos of this, and then eventually, because of the feedback that we got, we just thought, why not polish it up and release it for a little bit, just as a separate release that people can start playing with.
Yeah, and also as a teaser for future Volo versions, because this will definitely be built into Volo at some point.
Yeah, so this is kind of a taste of what's coming.
Yeah.
And oh, look at that shadow! I like that. And it's important to reiterate that we're putting this out here for free. At least this first experimental release is a kind of demo version. Like if you've never tried Volo Airsport before, but you want to get a feel for like, oh, look at this, that was nice and smooth.
Oh, yeah. So I think this is the first time that you're actually not die in our game. You get the possibility to not die now, which is great. I don't like dying.
Me neither, to be honest. I'd like to avoid it as much as possible for a little while. And the pilot, our virtual pilot, doubtlessly feels the same way. In fact, he confided in me the other day that he really dislikes the way he's always been crashing into the mountainside forever. So yeah, this is us giving pilot a little safety net.
So I'm wondering, can you go over the options a little bit and explain a little bit what the things do that you can tweak?
That is a very good question.
Because I tried to make a few parachutes the other day, but the only thing that I could make was really weird ones that were really fun but hard to fly as well.
Yeah, but it helps to know like what everything does and what it means when you're creating stuff. So I guess first let's go over the control scheme of this. By default, it's using the Xbox controller layout, but you can customize it in the in some options menu. If you wiggle left and right on the
like this.
Oh, like this. Okay. Yeah. Well, this is really hard for me, but this is really easy for you. Okay. So if you wiggle this, what happens? You can see the little red line on the pilot's little capsule. It's shifting its weight around, so it's not pulling directly on any lines, but it's sort of leaning left and right and forward and backwards in its harness. And that's already shifting the weight around and putting more weight in the left or the front lines. But that's not the only way you control it, right? Because you have all these lines from your harness going up to the canopy, and you can pull on those. So the first ones you can pull on by default, you can pull with the triggers. They pull on the brake lines, and you can see them light up in blue a little bit. Like it's a really thin pixely line, but trust me, they light up. And what they do is they pull on the left or the right side on the back of the canopy, which creates an additional amount of drag there and alters the properties of the airfoil there so that it starts turning.
So could you explain why the parachute turns green? What does it mean?
So now you see the color of all these cells changing, and what it represents is the angle of attack. So if you have the incoming wind from this direction and you're flying in this direction, the angle of attack means the angle of the wing as opposed to the incoming wind. And when it's green, it's sort of in the maximum lift region, close to stall point. And red means it's kind of okay, but getting to the point of like not generating enough lift again. But you have these green and these red lines poking out of all these individual cells, and they represent the amount of lift and drag being generated. And you can see that as I move around and start pulling on these ropes, like the angle of attack and thus the amount of lift and drag that all these cells generate, that's changing. And that causes pressure differentials, which causes the whole system to rotate and bank in all sorts of interesting ways. Mm-hmm. So the default controls here are for pulling on those brake lines, and you can see it wiggle around a bit as I do it. But then you can also press, and that's on the Xbox controller, the A and the X buttons. If you hold those down and then use the triggers, let me respawn a little bit here, then you can start pulling on like the rear lines, and they have interesting effects right now that don't technically make too much sense yet, but that's where it's still under development, and the front lines. And the idea is that with more advanced parachuting, you'll want to use combinations of all these controls simultaneously. So you'll want to not just be pulling the brakes, but also using weight shift to do a coordinated turn. And that's what a coordinated turn means, is that you use all these controls in tandem in such a way that you get the largest effect with the least amount of work done, or you get the best amount of turning or the fastest amount of speed without losing energy.
You have a parachute, and the idea is you're going really fast and you want to slow down because you don't want to die, right? So how do I do that with all these controls?
Well, first you want to get yourself a nice, big and easy, or relatively easy to fly parachute, like this one. I'll make it even easier by making these lines a little bit longer. So these brake lines that are the default for the triggers, they're called brake lines for a reason. They're used to brake. So if you pull on one of them, like you'll start slowly banking to left or slowly banking to the right. And in fact, this parachute is not really tuned all that well, so it's too slow for my liking. The point is, if you pull on both of them, like the wing as a whole starts slowing down. You can start seeing my speed drop a little bit when I do that. At that point, the parachute starts functioning like a pendulum. So if this is the parachute, and this is me, and we're flying along, if I start braking the parachute, it'll start wanting to slow down, and I'll start swinging under it. Now, this parachute is kind of large and slow, so the effect will be really minimal. If you have a really small, fast parachute, and you're shooting down, and suddenly you hit the brakes, you get this, like a swinging effect. And so what you do with those is you start spiraling down, picking up some speed, and this parachute is actually pretty large and slow for this, but like I want to get down to the floor fast. And then you start figuring out what is the right time for me to flare out, to stop turning. And I obviously did this way too early right now, but let's pick up a little bit speed and then hit the brakes a little bit. Okay. And then flare out. And like this is a really bumpy landing because I haven't flown this parachute before, but you want to kind of come in a dive and then flare out, flatten out your velocity along the ground, and then sort of be able to sort of to run along with it and reach a standstill through that.
You're not going really fast because you're braking, but still you're hitting the ground from an angle that's gonna be really, really painful. Yeah. You have to make sure you get a really smooth horizontal angle.
Okay. I wanted to go back to the small and nimble parachute for a second, because this shows like an advanced parachute that is not so easy to land. All it can do is go fast, because if it doesn't go fast, it just falls down like a brick. So you have to kind of spiral down and then try and flare up. See, I was too late there. So let's try that again. So you wanna keep your speed going because speed means lift. If you lose too much speed, you just start falling from the sky.
Yeah, it's the same as in Volo, right?
Yeah, it's the same as with the wingsuit, kind of. Okay. Use the brakes a little bit to get a little bit of lift. That lost me some speed, but I got some altitude for it in return, which meant I was able to make it over that hill. Actually, I want to pick up some speed now, so I'm going to apply some slight pressure to the front lines, which pulls the front down. And that was a bit much. And well, you can see how tight this measure for error is. You need to do a lot of predicting, like, if I do this, can I still make it back to the safe landing zone? And will I still have enough speed and altitude to make a safe approach to the landing zone? And so these fast and nimble parachutes, actually, let me do more front lines and see if I can land them. These are really fun to fly. Whoa, okay, that was slightly better. So you can see it takes a lot of practice to really get that right. Maybe that's a fun thing, or segue into like, what do all these settings mean? What do they do?
Right.
Let's just walk through them from top to bottom as a kind of tutorial thing. So the shape of the parachute as it is right now is described as a kind of ellipse shape, or a circle shape, and you can change the horizontal radius of that ellipse. And actually, I should show the full shape of it, like, all the way through.
Right.
So you can see that this is sort of a subsection of the ellipse, the top section.
Why would you want your parachute to be an ellipse? Why not a straight line?
Well, you can do a straight line as well. Like, if I turn the vertical radius down to kind of 0-ish, then you just get this. It turns out for the rolling motion, or the rolling pendulum motion that you want in banking, the elliptical shape is really nice. Just has a lot of useful effects. But you can invert this shape. Like we were like, let's not make this too limiting. Let's see what this does. But you can see here, like it's wiggle. I'm not even doing anything. It's wiggling around a lot. By inverting the shape, we have created a kind of interesting instability into the system. That's not to say it doesn't fly, but I think in reality this parachute shape would be much more prone to collapse. Also, while I start shifting my weight around, you can see that it's not at all responding in a way that I can actually control it in a linear way. You can also see that only the middle section of the wing is really able to generate lift, and the points at the outside, they don't really know what to do. So like, try as I might, I'm probably not going to be able to land this parachute okay. But it's fun to experiment with, and it'll teach you a lot about, like, okay, this is a bad parachute design. Now I have kind of an idea of what makes a good parachute and what makes a bad parachute, a little more than I did before. That's why it's interesting to play with this. So let's flatten it out and see what that does. It's less prone to fluctuations while doing nothing.
Yeah, but this would make the turning a bit harder than with an ellipse, I think.
Yeah, because for example, now I'm shifting my weight left, which is having adverse effects, and I'm actually starting to yaw the other way. So I'm still not able to control this in an intuitive way. And so height offset is very simple. It takes that elliptical shape and it moves it up and down, preserving correct line lengths in between. Now, this affects, for the most part, the pendulum effect that you have. So if this is if the point of lift where you're being pulled up from is very close to your actual center of mass, you don't have much pendulum action or a potential. And parachutes thrive in terms of control systems on the pendulum effect that they have with the wing at the top and the mass at the bottom. So if you make this too small, you can't really maneuver too much. But if you make this too large, like we can actually try this, we won't even be able to see the parachute anymore. But like, we get completely different reasons why this thing becomes uncontrollable again. For example, like if I start shifting my weight around, you can see that my harness is no longer constrained in such a way that it keeps me stable. It makes the...
Sorry, your harness? What's that mean?
Oh, well, the harness is like the connection of the lines from the parachute and the thing that you're suspended in. So you can see, because these lines are so long, I'm sort of just dangling here, and I have a lot of like disconnected motion from what the parachute is probably doing at the top. So this feels more like I'm suspended underneath a kite.
It's like there's a lot of lag also in what happens at the top and what is being transferred to the bottom. And
now we have the chord length, and you can see it's making this thing larger and smaller in a different dimension.
So my assumption is that if you make it smaller, you have less area, a smaller area that takes the wind. Right?
Yes. So if you make it smaller, the area of each section of the wing becomes smaller, and thus it interacts less with the air around it. So a smaller wing is going to generate less drag and less lift. But because it generates less drag and your weight stays the same, like as long as you don't change it, it stays the same. So the smaller one will generate less drag and go faster. So this is where you get this funny trade-off between a faster wing not necessarily meaning that you can't fly it anymore, but because smaller wings go faster, you can still fly them. You just need to go fast. If you make this too large, it'll start slowing you down so much that the wing becomes unflyable. It's not going to reach very high speeds, and look, wow, yeah, it had so much action that my weight really didn't seem to matter, and it can only do a collapse type of thing. And because the pressure model is kind of simplistic right now. You can get into these scenarios where the thing is unable to recover no matter how much I wiggle around. And this is the type of collapse situation where ordinarily you'd say in real life, okay, ditch this parachute, deploy my reserve, because this is unrecoverable.
So I would presume that the settings on top are more important than the settings that are more down below, or is that incorrect?
Well, that's not necessarily true. Like this is the first kind of set of configurations that we have. Some will stay the same. Most of them will change.
Mm-hmm.
There's also some settings in this model, like what type of airfoil this uses, or the elliptical shape of the thing. In a way, is also it's not yet in there.
What's an airfoil?
An airfoil is like a wing shape. Actually, we'll put up a picture here of like the airfoil shape and all the different kinds of shapes that you can have, and those affect the amount of lift and drag that is generated depending on the angle of attack and the speed and that kind of thing. Yeah. But you can see the cells at the top, they look square, but as far as the aerodynamic simulation goes, they are not. They have a specific shape, and that shape affects how they fly. And for different types of parachutes and different types of wings, you're going to choose different kind of airfoil shapes. Right now there's just one that's baked in that you can change, but for the next release I want to give you at least several options for that.
Okay.
But it's like a really large thin parachute looks wrong, so I just put it in there so you can make it look right. Number of cells is an important one. The minimum is 3. I don't know if this will fly. Maybe it'll crash. But hey, that's the fun, right? Like, yeah, this is pretty unstable. But where's the fun in that? Because it looks more organic when you start adding some cells to it.
Yeah.
Like this looks much more fluid, and it's a lot more resistant to small fluctuations. This has a lot less tendency to just respond to some turbulence by wildly spinning to the left or wildly spinning to the right. There's not much of a penalty to using a gigantic amount of cells like there is in real life. There is going to be, but right now it's kind of like more cells is better.
What's the actual penalty of using more cells? Because I cannot really imagine why more cells would be bad, actually.
Oh, in real life, you mean? Well,
yeah.
More cells means you have more divisionary sections between or in the cloth structure of the thing, which adds more weight to it, which can also add more drag. But to keep the structure of these cells stable, that means you also need to add more lines in between to suspend the weight with.
Which
Otherwise,
is also additional weight. I mean,
which is additional weight, and the lines also cause drag. So
yeah, they cause drag because they also catch wind.
Yeah, they like they're small and thin, but they still interact with the air as they pass through it. So the longer the lines and the more lines you have, the more drag you generate, and that does slow you down in a significant way eventually. The number of braked cells means the number of cells that you actually control when you brake. Yeah. And remember, the brakes by default are just the triggers without any kind of modifier buttons, and they light up in blue. So right now I have, that was 4 of them, right?
So we're showing now 4 lines lighting up because you're actually pulling 4 lines, right?
Yeah, I'm pulling 4 lines, and it's lines as defined from the outer edge of the parachute moving inwards. So 1, 2, 3, 4 from the left side, and 1, 2, 3, 4 on the right side. Yeah. And like if you have a ton of cells, and let me go back to the extreme of just having 1 braked cell, like then I'm only going to be pulling on that small outermost right section, and you can see it's responding to it, and on the left side as well. But if I try as I might, pulling all the way on that wire or that line on the right, I cannot get it to stop turning, and I need to increase my braked line amount quite a bit in order to get more control over it again. Also, I still need to apply my weight shift a little bit. This is also where not being able to change the airfoil kind of makes some parachute shapes still technically infeasible, because this should have more of a response than it does. But that's the nature of the experimental release.
So a few quick things maybe to wrap this up, so we can move on to the next thing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, number of cells is a big one. Canopy plus line mass is just the overall mass of the total canopy system, which kind of affects its behavior, but leaving it the default of 4 kilograms is kind of cool enough. Rigging angle changes the forward tilt of the wing, which changes its default angle of attack relative to your mode of flight. With this, you can make the parachute a little bit more aggressive or a little bit more stable. Pressure multiplier is kind of a compensating factor for the fact that the pressure system is kind of stupid right now. So if you're like, this parachute should be more stable than it appears, just ramp up the pressure multiplier and it'll just be more rigid. So like a factor of 2 is kind of okay for most cases.
Okay.
Rig attach point is the point where, like, roughly at your character's shoulders, all those lines converge and link to your harness. So if I change the X position, you can see it's moving inwards, and now this will be an interesting thing. Like my weight shift will not be able to matter much here because everything's concentrated on a single point. So all I can do is wiggle around a bit. This is kind of also what you'd get if you get a line twist. You can't get this in the simulation yet, maybe later. But that means you can't control your direction through your weight shift anymore. Can I start spinning around my axis now? Or flip over? Yeah, I can.
Yeah, almost.
I'm upside down now. Okay. Rear riser pull magnitude and front riser magnitude are like how strongly can you pull on the front and rear lines, and let me pull those up to the extremes, and let me
So this is the strength of your character.
yeah, like just how strongly are you pulling on those lines, how much are you trying to reel them in, and this is going to be way too much, so let me grab the front lines and just pull on them, and you can see just that it just puts an immense amount of pressure on the front lines. It's like you're transferring all your weight to it, and the shape goes unstable, but you get some pretty radical effects. And let me do the same thing with the rear lines. Okay, it doesn't like that.
Okay, there
yeah,
go.
so you can see you need to kind of balance that with like how radically you want to be able to maneuver. But the larger you make these magnitudes, the harder it is to control, but the more fun it can be. This okay. Don't know if I'll be able to recover from this. Actually, there it goes.
It seems kind of stable, actually.
Yeah, this is, well, there you go. This is how you can make some really radical parachutes, which are very maneuverable. Let's see, the weight shift magnitude is like the amount of space in actual distance that you can shift your weight forward and backward. Okay, so now my weight shift magnitude is increased, and so now I can lean more towards the left and lean more towards the right, and you can especially see once I shift from left to right, that has a more pronounced effect on the whole parachute than it did before. And then finally we have pilot weight, and that just means like how much the harness weighs, how much you've eaten that day, that kind of thing. Yeah, that's all the settings. If you have any questions about those, like, feel free to ask. We love to discuss how all of this works, and if you're unclear about any particular thing, just, it's a complex system, feel free to ask.
So, if I make a really cool parachute, how do I share it? How do I show the world, this is really cool, you should try this parachute?
Anything that you, any configuration that you create from here, if you quit the game and you boot it up again, that's saved on disk.
Yeah.
So the next time you want to get back and mess with your awesome paraglider, you can do that. Now this text file is saved in your My Documents folder, along with the rest of Volo Airsport's configuration files. We'll put it right up here on the screen. So if you can find that text file, you can put it up on the forum or send it to someone else. Now, of course, in the future, we'll make this much more easy to do, but again, experimental prototype release, so you got to put in a little bit of extra work. But that's really exciting to us, because we're dying to see what kind of stuff you make, what you can make with it. We don't know.
A bird parachute.
Oh yeah, we'll put that up on the screen here as well. That one was amazing. I had no idea that it could do that. Like, whoop,
Was it impossible to fly? But
okay. So with that said, I think question time, because we mentioned that we're going to do a little bit more direct feedback on your feedback, and we got a couple of cool questions.
Magneto HG asked us on Steam. Well done on the new show. Knowing Rocket League supports only Windows, will the same be true of Volo? And the answer is no.
Which is a good answer.
Probably not, no. Because Volo is currently available on Linux, Mac and Windows. And since we will switch to bullet physics, we will test bullet physics on Mac and Linux, because bullet physics is also available on these platforms. So I don't see any real big danger there.
We might have to fix some more Linux bugs or Mac bugs than we usually have to, but it'll work.
Okay. Next question. It's from Kyle H. Cool to see the faces behind this awesome game.
Yes.
How do you feel about the announcement of Steep?
Well, I think it's great that gaming is starting to pay a little bit more attention to flying with wingsuits and with parachutes and with snowboarding, because I think extreme sports games, like, they've been such a large part of my life. A large part of my brain is just dedicated to the sort of the dream of extreme sports and doing cool stuff like that. And it's been underrepresented in games, as far as I feel. That's why we started making this whole thing in the first place.
Yeah.
But I guess most people who ask this question to us specifically are like, aren't you worried? Like, aren't you worried about the competition? And in that case, I'll just slightly arrogantly say no. Because they're not doing this. They're not doing any of this. So I think while I'll really like their game, is especially the eclectic mix of snowboarding and skiing and skydiving and everything in between, and being to smoothly switch between those and blend those together, that's really cool. But they're not paying the attention that we are to the just the dynamics and the feel of flight.
Yeah, they make a more arcade game, and this is more like, this is, to me at least, it's a tinkering game. It's the game about aerodynamics, and the focus right now is much more on the tinkering and the learning to fly side than the anything else.
Yeah, that's, I guess, a good way to formulate the long-term perspective we have on Volo Airsport. We see it as much more than just an idle play thing. Like, it can be so much more, and with this parachute release, I think we're pointing at the fact that it can be so much more. But are we worried in terms of competition? Again, I think there is just so much room for both games to exist, and more games to exist besides Volo Airsport and besides Steep too. Like, everyone who loves games and extreme sports has just been clamoring for something, anything. So in terms of market saturation, I think we're a long way away from that kind of thing from happening.
Yeah, definitely.
So I welcome Steep. And when it comes out, I will love playing it, and it'll give me a lot of ideas for what to do with Volo Airsport. It already has, and I think that's very healthy, and I think that should be celebrated.
Yeah. Okay, next question.
Yeah.
It's from Swift Eric.
Yeah, we love you, Swift Eric.
Yeah.
Thank you again for the animations that you made. Those are wonderful.
Oh yeah, we should provide the link.
Oh yeah, we'll do that, like up here.
Regarding multiplayer, so you don't send messages about player input, you just predict the next position and then smooth the movement out. Wouldn't player input messages solve the issue? We actually do send player input because we need it as a source for simulating where the player will be, because without input you cannot predict or simulate anything. Next question is from Rockmore. Will the Aurora Wager also get VR support? I really like the game and I would love to see it grow and be more complete.
That is a good question. Like, The Aurora wager we keep coming back to as, God, if only we had the time to work on it, because we really want to, and we have like swaths of notes and design ideas and prototype ideas that really feel like it could be a great game. And so too with VR support. I think the difficult thing with VR support is that here's an idea that a lot of people come up with to us, and it's the HTC Vive room scale VR, where you can walk around, use your hands. That's really cool. The problem with Aurora Wager would be that you're not on stable ground when you're in the balloon. So we could simulate the whole balloon thing, that you could walk around the gondola that you're in, and actually use the burner that way, or pick up items and place them around. The problem is that you don't have any feedback in terms of what is happening, like how the thing is turning and being pulled and pushed by the wind. And I think that would ultimately kind of cheapen the experience and serve to connect you to the world less.
Okay.
Even though through VR you're actually trying to connect you and immerse you in the world more. And I think that's just one thing that VR right now is just not that suitable for yet. So while I can picture in my mind a version of the game working that way, I think it would limit the game in a strong way.
Also, I think it's just a lot of work to get it VR ready, and we could also use that time for more important things.
Oh yeah, that's also the practical side of VR, and we noticed that with Volo Airsport, is it just takes so much time to get it even remotely working on a technical level. For Volo Airsport, I think it's been worth it in a sense, but like we could have done a lot of other things with that time, and saved ourselves a ton of headaches.
Yeah.
If we just didn't go for VR.
Last question from Dries Lambrecht. Are you considering real-world locations?
Oh yeah, that one gets asked all the time, which I'm happy about, because a lot of people want to see this, and I think in some ways I want to see it too. The nice thing about real-world locations is that you can actually start comparing what you're doing in game to what you see on videos.
Mm-hmm.
Couple of things about that. I like the idea of it, because that means you can kind of start competing with people like Jeb Corliss, or be like, oh, I can do flying through the crack in Switzerland. I can do that better than they do in real life, or I can do it with a barrel roll, or that kind of thing. Problem with that is, I think it will secretly start to show that Volo simulation model is sometimes not like real life. So once we start introducing real-world locations, that will also mean that the physics model will start having to converge more to real-world properties, which, oh, that was a terrible landing, which can be a good thing and it can be a bad thing. Second, real-world locations often only have a single interesting feature. It is really tough to find real-world locations that are just interesting everywhere and allow you to like do thousands of different combinations of lines that are interesting. So I think the way forward is to be inspired by real-world locations, but not fall into the trap of just doing realism for realism's sake, or doing real-world locations because that's quote-unquote cool. We have to look at how useful that is with regards to bang for our bucks and gameplay mechanics.
So I think we've talked enough about that.
Definitely.
Everything.
I want to have lunch.
We're gonna have lunch. You guys should consider downloading it. You should not consider, you should just download this thing and play with it and tell us what you think. And also, please, if you like it, tip us on itch.
Yeah, or if you've not bought Volo Airsport and you're like, this is wild, I love this, then support us by either tipping or buying Volo Airsport on Steam or on itch, because that's still the best way to support us. All those things said, I think we should say thank you so very much for watching and for playing. And
like, comment and subscribe.
Definitely. And until next time.
Yeah.